Hello, I'm Luke Darcy and welcome to the 2012 wash-up for the Adelaide Crows Football Club. Damien Barrett is with me, and Damo, people have questioned whether or not the Adelaide Crows were worthy top four contenders, but given the fact they end up getting through to the prelim final, you have to say that they deserve their spot in the finals.
Yeah, no doubt, Darcy. I mean, people have been talking about, and we have, about the softish draw they got, but the ladder really lies, does it? And when you finish second after a home and away season and then perform really well in weeks 2 and 3 of the finals, particularly week 3, yeah, they weren't that far off the grand final in the end.
Thought they were sensational on Saturday night against Hawthorn in that big prelim final. A highlight for me was the year that Paddy Dangerfield put together. He's stepped up, Damo, and he's now an absolute A-grader in the competition. And credit to him, credit to Brenton Sanders and whoever's helped him develop at such a quick rate. He was all contested for the first part of his career and wasn't able to break out and do this sort of stuff that we saw on a regular basis. He's just a complete package. Unbelievably tough and hard, sensational runner, brilliant kick. He's incredibly exciting.
Yeah, the scrutiny came last year, didn't it? When, as you said, he was doing all the hard work but not getting the easier touches. But it all came together this year. And if there's a more exciting player to watch in the comp, I don't know who it is. I just love watching him.
The final quarter of the prelim on Saturday, 11 disposals, almost single-handedly dragged them over the line, and it was just an incredible performance. Highlight for you?
Yeah, I like Taylor Walker's season, Darce. He was always going to do it, and it came in 2012. I love watching him. I reckon he brings a real wow factor to the game. I like it when he is a little bit selfish at times too, just because, you know, he can do things that others can't. And he's a big-time performer too, isn't he, Darcy? He kicks the goals that have to be kicked. He did that throughout the finals and really stood up in the crunch moments. And you know, we talk about 100 goal kickers not being part of the game in the future. I reckon if he gets it all together next year in a manner similar to what he did in 2012, he actually could, you know, put himself up into that realm anyway.
I'm led to beleave he's an outstanding runner. Runs 10 minutes and 10 seconds for 3 kilometres, which is absolutely elite. He's got a great
10 minutes for 3K. Yeah, that's 6 foot 4 or 5.
Yeah, and a great shape for the modern forward. He's got a low centre of gravity, great at ground level. Seriously exciting player. Low light for me for the Adelaide Crows was the qualifying loss to the Swans.
Yeah.
And this was the moment for them. They had won and got through to a prelim final with a week off. Perhaps we'll be sitting here talking about the Crows in a grand final, and devastating result. Sydney absolutely outplayed them. They set up beautifully, and you could see that there was this devastation around, as you would expect, giving up a home final opportunity. But the credit to them, they responded beautifully, got back, won the game against the Dockers, a close game, and then, as we said, performed sensationally.
Yeah, it was. To me, Darcy, and look, Kurt Tippett got it right, didn't he, in the preliminary final. Played an outstanding game of footy. But up until that point, the concussion saga that he had endured and his club had been put through as well, it just wasn't good. And as we know, the contractual talks around that, which were the subplot to the whole concussion thing in a footy talking sense, it just wasn't a good year for Kurt outside that preliminary final.
Yeah, it was a real worry, wasn't it, whether or not he'd actually be able to overcome that and come out and play. And as you said, great to see that he did. Time to hand out some Christmas bonuses, Damo, for the Adelaide Crows in 2012. I think there's one man that stands above everyone else for me, and that's Brenton Sanders, and sensational debut year as a coach. And you go, for me, right into the prelim final, where there was a 5-minute period in the third quarter. It looked like they were going to get 7 goals piled on. He coached really well, got defenders back, slowed the game down. All the players that we think have improved, you have to attribute that. Taylor Walker wasn't getting a game last year. We weren't talking about Paddy Dangerfield in the sort of light that we are. I love he's refreshing. He's honest. He doesn't talk crap. No. He actually stands up and says what you think. It's not that hard, and he's fun. He's enjoyable. He's a superstar, Brenton Sanders.
Yeah, well, you beat me to the punch on him, but I'm going to give it to Sam Jacobs. He probably had a quiet-ish final series, Dust, but before that, I mean, what he did in the 23 weeks of the home and away season was very crucial to what Adelaide did. And I know you couldn't find a spot for him in the All-Australian, but he should have been there, Dust, by the way. But he was very good, wasn't he? He was very good.
Yeah, you're good at finding spots for 60 players, but haven't taken anyone out. He had a great year, and take nothing away from it. First year, it was probably rated as the 4th ruckman at Carlton. To go from there to being in the All-Australian squad of 40 is just a sensational effort, and well done to Sam Jacobs. And I hope he takes his game to a greater level next year and becomes an absolutely complete ruckman.
Chopping block time, Dust.
Not easy
who are you going to put on?
To do it, but Richard Tamling, for me, unfortunately, hasn't worked out at the Adelaide Crows in a similar vein to why Richmond moved him on. And for Adelaide to have given up their compensation pick round 1, the Nathan Box selection, who went to the Gold Coast, and a pick 50 in hindsight is not a great result from them. And I don't think Richard Tamling, unfortunately, is going to make it as an AFL player.
Yep. I've got Chris Knights in the chopping block category. I just can't believe that what's happened to him over the past 2 years. I thought he was on the verge of being an absolute superstar of the game, particularly what he did in 2009. But it looks like a new home for him in 2013. I think it'll be at Richmond, but he just couldn't get a look in, and I'm surprised at that. But there's still a bit of footy left in him.
So where do the Adelaide Crows need to step up in 2013 if they are to take the next step and get through to a grand final? To me, the unknown factor is Kurt Tippett. If he departs, there is this big hole, and I think Taylor Walker will need some support. I'd just love to see those two develop and play the way they did in the prelim final on Saturday more consistently, because they can tear any defence apart. Tippett, as you said, the problems he had concussion-wise, if he stays and consistently plays that well, Walker develops the way we think, that's the big area for them to improve.
Yep. I just think they need the same scheduler as they got in 2012, Dars. The beautiful draw they got against the bad teams in the competition. They won't get the same favours, but if they get something similar again, they'll again qualify for a qualifying final at home, which they did this year. And if that's the case, well, who knows? But no, they just need another good draw again.
Where are they going to finish next year?
I reckon about the same, Dar. So they may not finish as high on the ladder, but possibly drop down a little bit as well. But again, round about the same for me. Yeah.
Round about the same, possibly drop down.
Round about the same. Round about the same. Yeah.
Then you had them dropping down. What? Get off the fence, Damo. I don't think they're going to have the year they had this year. I think there's still going to be some improvement. The draw was just remarkable. The players' second year up sometimes is harder. We now know a lot more about Walker. We know about Dangerfield. They'll get more attention. I think they'll make the finals, but I've got them around about 5th or 6th in 2013. Damien Barrett, that is the wash-up for the Adelaide Crows in season 2012. Time for the 2012 wash-up for the Magpies, and Damien Barrett is with me. How do you assess Collingwood's season after 2 grand finals the last 2 years? Would this season be a failure, Damo, or were there some extenuating circumstances?
Definitely extenuating circumstances, Darcy, and it's not a failure. I mean, finishing in the preliminary final round as they did, they were blown away to a point in that preliminary final, but again, there were extenuating circumstances, and I think what they did was a good result for what happened.
I think my highlight for the year, Damo, was Nathan Buckley, the way he coached, the way he handled himself. There was more pressure on a first-year coach than I think we've ever seen in the history of the game. The succession plan, all of the talk around that. Mick Moldhouse working in the media for the first year. I thought he handled himself with pure class, Bucks. Coached brilliantly. Said the right things at the right time, kept his composure, didn't buy into any of the things he didn't need to. And when you coach the most high-profile club in Australia, that comes with extra baggage. And big tick for Nathan Buckley. I thought he was fantastic. Yeah,
there's a lot going on with Collingwood throughout the year, wasn't there? And my highlight for them came in the semi-final round when they played this game, and with John McCarthy having died only days earlier. We see they're running out to play West Coast in this game. Rest in peace, mate. And the emotions that were at play after this game just showed exactly what they were dealing with and how they managed to get themselves up for that game. I still don't know. The emotion got the better of them, I think, in the end, when the final series played out. But what they were able to do on that particular occasion, so soon after the passing of John McCarthy, and there's a really good mate of his there, Dane Beams, and Jared Blair there as well, also inconsolable. But huge emotion, and well done for how they handled not just that week, but the week after it as well.
Yeah, well said, Damo. 100% agree with you on that. Low light time, I think the whole Travis Cloke saga had the potential to really unstable the club. If he had been able to maintain his form right throughout the period, we're not talking about it, but it did get inside his head. It did affect the way that he played. And then the discussion and all the circus around it, will he stay, won't he stay, we're still not sure. I think that was something that probably, in the end, threw their season out a little bit. He ended up getting back on track and playing, much better in the finals, but it was a big concern for them. And then it, really threw Chris Dawes out as well, and their 2 key forwards didn't fire. That was a real low light for me.
Yep. No, to me it was the Dane Swan saga, Darcy. You need everything to go right to have a successful year in footy, and things didn't go right for Collingwood. And that Dane Swan issue during the year, where he was suspended by his leadership group for 2 matches for having alcohol when he shouldn't have. Rightly or wrongly, once that rule's in place, he had to be suspended. And I think they handled the situation well, but it just shouldn't have got to that stage. And Dane Swan's been around long enough to know, don't put yourself in that situation.
Christmas bonus time for the Magpies in season 2012. And a standout improver for me was Dane Beams, who was rewarded with an All-Australian selection. Damo took his game to a whole new level, and I understand Robert Harvey's influence down there has been extreme. This goal
Did
kicking.
you see this coming?
No.
Did you see this guy being this good?
No way at all, particularly not this soon. I
Yep.
really rated him as a player. Probably thought he was just a little bit one way.
Yep.
Didn't do the defensive things as well as the forward. But to have a goal kicker who could kick 27 goals throughout the midfield, and he stood up to massive challenges. In the big final they won against West Coast, tagged by Scott Selwood, had something like 20 contested possessions in that. Can handle taggers, can run forward and kick goals. What a great year from Dane Booms.
My Christmas bonus goes to the man you touched on before, Nathan Buckley. He probably doesn't need any more money, does. He's on a fair bit, but just handling the season the way he did. 1 and 2 to start the year, 1 win, 2 losses, and then the Mick Malthouse thing blew up then, and also managing his way and the team's way through the contractual sagas involving Travis Cloke and that issue with Dane Swanee. I thought he was magnificent, and a bit like Brenton Sanderson, he's really good mate, handled the media beautifully, was happy to say things, prepared to say things, and did it with real class.
Got to put a couple on the chopping block and our Damo in 2012, and it pains me to do this because I hate putting any ruckman in the gun at all, but I think Cameron Wood had a big opportunity in round 23 when Jolly didn't play. Went over to the West, took on Nat Nui and Cox, and it just didn't work out. And I'm not sure that Cameron Wood is going to be there in the future. I think they'll probably look to some of the younger players coming through, and they'll be having their fingers crossed that Darren Jolly can play for as long as he possibly can.
Yep. To me, it's the handling of the Travis Cloke thing, but by extension of that, the board itself of Collingwood and the senior management officials. I just say that because this was always going to blow up with David Cloke's involvement, Darcy, and I just don't think enough planning went into how they were going to handle the public side of it. And I just reckon in that regard, it was a saga they could have done without, and one they could have actually managed far better than they did.
You've got it in for the board. They couldn't be more stable. Building a $40 million facility, you'd be absolutely a dream to be at Collingwood under that regime.
What was the one slow?
Everything.
What was the one slow on the year for Collingwood when it came to something that dragged on for the whole year? What was it?
Well, you mentioned Dane Swan as the issue.
No, that was a 2-week issue, and that was dealt with.
I'm not sure they could do anything more than the way they handled that.
All I'm saying was that they should have had a game plan around this thing blowing up, and I don't think
you can't control someone's manager who is a parent who wants to drag it out through the media. But anyway, Damo, that's your thoughts. Where do they need to improve in 2013?
I just think they need to remove those off-field distractions. They had it last year with the Mick Malthouse saga. They had it this year, as we've touched on already. They've just got to somehow not have the Collingwood-type saga because it affected them last year, Das. It affected them this year. Well,
I mentioned that I don't think Cameron Wood is potentially up to it. They've got a couple of young ruckmen that I think they need to try and develop quickly. As I said, Jolly is their most important player for their structure. When he doesn't play, they are a completely different side. Keep an eye on a young man called Jared Witts. He's only 20 years of age. He's nearly 7 feet tall.
Massive raps.
He's got some real aggression about him, and it's going to take time when you're that big. Comes from the New South Wales scholarship system, and a little bit of work to do, but they need to get that improvement quickly if they are to improve in 2013. Where have you got them finishing next year?
I've got them stagnating, Das. So, I mean, they top 4 again thereabouts. I mean, it's a good performance, and I reckon they're going to be right in the mix for that again in 2013.
Yeah, I think Collingwood, likewise for me, I think they're right up there in the final. I think they are the most even group. I think they're across the board, they've got the most talent.
Yep.
As you said, probably need to just get a few things right in terms of handling some of the off-field issues, and they will be right back up there in 2013. Thank you, Damo. That has been the wash-up for Collingwood in 2012.